There's a trade proposal out there that I saw for William Nylander going to the Seattle Kraken. Should the Toronto Maple Leafs consider it? Plus, is Auston Matthews' deal more important to get done first? And would the NHL consider an in-season tournament idea? I discuss all that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast, your daily fix for all things Leafs. I'm your host, David Morassutti from Sportsnet. And as always, the Locked On Leafs podcast is a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast. So make sure you subscribe for free wherever you get your podcasts from. And make sure you get us on YouTube each and every day, Locked On Leafs, because it is your team every day. We're here 5 days a week until the end of the week. Then we're going to be moving to 3 shows a week for the summertime with news dying down a little bit. Not really as much news coming out. So we're going to be changing it over to 3 days a week, but we're still going to have shows for you for the rest of the week here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. And I got an interesting text last night as I was kind of preparing to do the show. And I had someone say, William Nylander potentially to Seattle. And my eyes opened. I was like, I hadn't seen anything about Seattle and the Leafs. And so did a little bit of digging around, see where these rumors coming from. It looked like somebody started potentially throwing out a trade idea with Nylander to Seattle, and that kind of got everyone, all the people looking for those clicks online, trying to get a headline going there. And then I noticed that my colleague of Mike and I over at Locked On Kraken, Erica Ayala, she was discussing this idea about a Nylander trade to Seattle involving Shane Wright. Now, she was actually of the opinion that Seattle shouldn't be looking to trade Shane Wright. We know that Shane Wright didn't exactly have the best of introductions to the NHL. First off, a guy who was expected to go first overall ends up falling down the fourth overall. That was kind of the first little wrinkle in this whole Shane Wright situation where, he thought he was going first overall. Didn't happen. It felt like there was a little bit of a that's tough for a player like that because then everyone wonders what's going on. Why isn't Shane Wright going first overall? What happened here? And then what happens is he goes to Seattle, and they don't want to play him the full 10 games to have his first year of his entry level burn off. So he only played 8 games in the NHL last year, had 2 points. They found a way to get him down to the AHL. He scored 4 goals, 6 points in 8 games there. And then eventually, the team decided we're going to send him to the World Juniors. He did that. And then sent him to the OHL for the rest of the year. It was a very bizarre situation because of the whole he's either got to be in the NHL or he's got to go back to the OHL. And it just seemed like they did not want to do that to Shane Wright where they had him in the OHL because they probably felt like he was too good for it. I don't think so. I think they should have sent him there. Let him play a few games in the NHL and then let him go back to the OHL and kind of work on things there. I understand the OHL is not the AHL, but that's the options were quite limited. They found the way to make it work with him. So why all of a sudden would the Leafs consider trading Nylander in a 1-for-1 for Shane Wright? That one I do not get. I understand that Shane Wright could be a good player. I don't see Shane Wright as a top line player in the NHL. Nylander next year could be on Auston Matthews' wing. Top line player at the NHL. He's put up production as a top line player in the NHL with over 80 points last season, 40 goals. That's top line production. So I don't understand where that idea comes from, where the Leafs would actually consider doing a 1-for-1. So that wasn't that was just something that she down. Don't go to Erica's page and start blasting her. I'm bringing it up here. I don't like she's just going by what the reports are saying. I do think that if the Leafs were to trade Nylander to Seattle, and they're a team that I think would be or should be interested because they don't exactly have a lot of high end scoring talent there in Seattle, there are some pieces I would consider. Notably, Vince Dunn, who is an RFA right now, does not have a new deal. He does have arbitration rights. Kind of a similar issue where I think Seattle is going to dig in. They're probably waiting for to settle a little bit in arbitration here, but I've always liked Vince Dunn. I think he's a decent blue liner. He had a career year. Now this is the issue here. He had a career year where he had 14 goals and 64 points. The guy had never cracked more than 40 points in a season. Comes to Seattle, obviously gets a little more, gets a higher role, and he exceeded in that role. So I also like that he's not a small defenseman, 6 foot, 203 pounds, not the smallest defenseman, but I think there's potential there. The Leafs need to add on the blue line. Vince Dunn would be an intriguing player. He can play both the left and the right side. I don't know if that's enough, for the Leafs to consider. He's 26, so he's he's on a good path there in terms of age. I think there could be something potentially there in terms of looking at a guy. If you're looking at outside of the normal Carolinas and things like that, I think Seattle would be an interesting team if Nylander would not only agree to a trade there, but agree to a contract. Right? That's the important thing is that Seattle would have to get a contract done with Nylander before they even make that move. Now, could the Leafs potentially look to make other moves in that situation? I think so. I think you're looking at a guys like I'm looking at their cap friendly page right now. They got like guys like Yanni Gourde, who I think would be a great fit on the Leafs. You know what he did in the playoffs with Tampa. He actually was pretty good for Seattle too. Good playoff performer. I think the Leafs would definitely do well if they went and got a guy like Yanni Gourde. You could go out and get, help your blue line a little bit. You want to add a little bit of size. I don't know if if you do a package revolving around like a Shane Wright and Adam Larson, that wouldn't be too bad because you get a decent for Shane Wright. You know where his potential could be. Adam Larson would be a top 4 guy, right side, toughness, bring some of that, help you out on the penalty kill. He is 30. Let's just not forget here that Adam Larson's also 30. He has 2 years left on his deal, $4 million, and he has a modified no trade clause. It's a 10-team no trade list. So that's something to consider there. Again, I don't know if that value adds up enough for a Nylander deal. So the Leafs have to be very careful when they look at a deal like that. So don't mind the idea of trading him to Seattle. I understand that Erica's position. You don't want to give up on a guy you picked at 4th overall, but you're also getting a guy who put up over 80 points. He's done it, and he can do it. I think in the right role, he could do it well enough, and he's looking for that top line role consistently. Seattle would be the perfect place for him, in my opinion, to do that. So something to keep an eye on there. I wouldn't do it 1-for-1. No way should the Leafs ever do that 1-for-1. So do you think Seattle would be an interesting landing spot for Nylander? What would you like back in a potential trade? Let me know in the comments below. On the other side, we're going to talk a little bit about Auston Matthews' deal. We're not going to talk about what he should get or anything like that too much, but we're going to talk about whether signing him first is the right idea, because I have been hearing that in a lot of conversation about the contract situations there. So let's discuss that on the other side. Here on the Locked On Leafs podcast, it's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by a product that I use every day, AG1 by Athletic Greens. Maybe you're like me, you want to be healthy and eat well, but it's always easier said than done. That's no longer the case with AG1. With one delicious scoop of AG1 in a glass of water each day, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy recovery, focus, and aging, all of those things. It can be hard and expensive to keep track of multiple different supplements and vitamins, not to mention how hard it can be on your stomach. AG1 costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. If a comprehensive solution is what you are looking for in your supplement routine, then try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs, AG1 travel packs, with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/NHL network. That's drinkag1.com/NHL network. Check it out today and get yourself the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. David Morassutti here. Mike DiStefano is away and for the next couple of weeks. He is enjoying the great European seas. I hate that, but I love that for Mike. He's definitely the cruise guy. Somebody was telling me, man, this guy loves to cruise. I love to cruise too, everyone. I was a bigger cruiser than Mike was before he started going on cruises with his family. So I will be going on a cruise at the end of the year. Little hint there. I don't know if I even told Mike that. I will be going on my own vacations. Don't worry about that. I know a lot of people think that Mike's the only one that goes on vacations. I do too. Speaking of off-season stuff, I did discuss on the other side that I want to talk about Auston Matthews' deal and this idea about whether he should sign his contract first. We know that he did when now Tavares, we're going to leave him out of this one first. There was the 3 guys that the Leafs had to sign when he had to sign Matthews, Nylander, and Marner. You had to get all those contracts done. When it was time for Matthews and Marner, Matthews came first, then Marner's deal. And so the idea here is whether the Leafs should set the tone with an Auston Matthews contract. If Auston Matthews, it comes out that he takes less in his deal, then, maybe that'll tell all the other guys, all right, now maybe you should consider to take less on your deals as well. Here's the thing. There's been this measuring stick idea with Matthews, Marner, Nylander, because, the sentiment with Nylander is, why should he take a discount if Matthews and Marner aren't willing to take a discount? So everyone's saying, well, if you get Matthews signed first, he sets the tone for the rest of them. Obviously, he would sign before Nylander, before Marner has to sign. So basically, he sets the tone for Nylander. And maybe that's what Nylander's waiting for, and that's maybe what the Leafs are potentially looking to do as well. We don't know. We don't know what order they want to go through here. I do think that getting Nylander first would be the better idea, and this is why. I think if you sign Matthews, even if, let's say, they signed him to, I'm hearing that he doesn't want to do 8 years, but let's say they signed him to like a 5-year between, in around just under 13 or in around the $13 million range. Let's say that's the deal. So then you're going to tell Nylander, who wants 10, that he's not $3 million less than Auston Matthews. Right? Or even if Matthews, let's say, gets into like that Nathan McKinnon range of like the 12.5 to 12.8. Then you got to tell Nylander, you got to sign 8. But and we know that the issue here is, I am of the belief that the Leafs should not be going with the valuations of their own players, and they should be doing what's going around the league. Like, are you telling me Nylander should be signing for then? And Mike and I went through this. I'll go back to the episode where we're talking about Nylander's deal. I can't see how you're evaluating yourself higher than a Matthew Tkachuk, higher than even like a Jonathan Huberdeau, Braden Point, Nikita Kucherov. There's like a bunch of players there that I can't see how you're going to put yourself in a higher valuation then. I still think the highest he should go is that 8.8 that Timo Meier signed. I think that's the perfect comparable. for Nylander. Now, let's say Nylander doesn't want to sign for 8 years. At that point, you have to make that work. Like Timo Meier signed for 8 years. Some guys like that 8 years. I don't understand why you don't want that security. I do think that signing Nylander first would be the better idea, just because then if you get him signed to a reasonable deal, or try to get him signed to that reasonable deal, then Auston Matthews, you say, look, Nylander took this. We can't pay you top dollar. We can't max out on you. We want to pay you a little bit more, right? I think he's now Nathan McKinnon set a new bar where Matthews is not worth 11 anymore. He's in the 12s. 13s is I'm still I'm I if he's not giving you full term, I can't see them doing the 13 and a half that I saw other people talking about. And this is why if you're getting Auston Matthews signed first, it's only because he is setting the tone for the other deals. That means he's taking less than what people think he's going to take. If he does that, then it sends a little bit of a message. But I still think getting Nylander done first is the right call, in my opinion. So that's something that Brad Treliving is going to have to do. He's going to have to work hard on that because he's Auston Matthews is the most important contract the Leafs are going to sign. I know Nylander's getting a lot of the attention, but I do think Auston Matthews deserves the attention too. In that, you know what, some of these guys are saying they want to stick around Toronto, they want to win here. Well, it's hard to win here if these guys are maxing out or making these contracts difficult, and it hampers what the Leafs can do. The Leafs couldn't sign. I mean, other than the Ryan Reeves one, all the other deals were for 1 year because the Leafs had no idea what their salary cap structure was going to be like going forward. In my opinion, that's tough to do business if you're a general manager. If you're Brandon Prindham trying to figure all this stuff out, and he's got huge question marks. He can give ranges. We think Nylander can be from this to this, Matthews can be from this to this, Marner can be from this to this. But that still doesn't help when you're trying to build a team around them. So I think these guys are going to have to realize that, it was a big gymnastic effort to make all this work the last time. What's the desire here? And I think that's why Auston Matthews doesn't want to sign for 8 years, because if he signs for less and he takes less, then he can reload and try to get more on the next deal. I don't harm a player for doing that. It doesn't help the Leafs, obviously. And it'd be nice if these guys were to do what other stars have done for other teams too. Nathan McKinnon signed for 8. Kachuk signed for 8. A lot of these guys are signing for 8 years. It'd be nice if the stars that say they want to be here make that 8-year commitment too. So we'll see how that all goes. I do think that it's going to take time. It is going to take time because they got to get these deals done right. So we'll see how that all plays out. I do have a guest coming on the show for tomorrow, and I'll get his thoughts on, should the Leafs sign Matthews first? What should they sign him to? And just kind of get this. It's going to be like this for a while, guys. I don't think there's going to, unless Nylander signs out of nowhere or Matthews signs out of nowhere, I'm not getting any inkling that's happening, but it is the offseason. Things kind of pop out of nowhere. So we'll be keeping an eye on it. That's why we're here. We're here we're here until Friday, 5 days a week, and then we're moving on to 3 days a week. And I promise you, if one of those deals comes down, I'll have a show almost right away. I might even go live. We'll see. See what time. If they do it at midnight, sorry, not going to go live at midnight. You guys are all going to be asleep. But if they do something, I will make sure to be here when that news does break down. Speaking of breaking things down, I wanted to propose an in-season NHL tournament idea. We're seeing this sort of become a trend now in today's sports world. The NBA is looking to do one. So I'm going to discuss that and whether the NHL can make that work here on the other side. It is the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This show is also brought to you by Birddogs. It's a product that I use every day now in the summertime because, I'm someone that likes to enjoy the summer weather, go outside, play some golf. And when I play golf, I actually like to wear my Birddogs because they're a perfect product for the summertime and especially for golf because they're designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. But they fit way better than any shorts like Lululemon because they're not made of that stiff, restricting cotton. They have cloud knit fabric that makes it look like khakis, but stretches and has a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement. If you know golf, you need movement, and that's why bird dogs are perfect for that. And they use anti-sweat wicking fabric to keep you cool and dry all day, especially when you're out there for 4 hours and you're walking on the golf course. It is perfect. I also use them, if I'm going up to the cottage, I can. I brought them up to the cottage, and people are actually they were surprised of how well they looked. And the inseam is great, and they're very versatile. Most versatile shorts I've ever had, actually. So definitely recommend you all going to get one. And you can go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL or enter promo code LockedOnNHL for a free Yeti style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL or promo code LockedOnNHL for free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your bird dogs off. We promise you that. Welcome back to the Locked On These podcast. It's your team every day. David Morassutti here, and the NBA proposed an in tournament that is now going forward. And you know what? Like, there's a lot of skepticism about this, and I can understand why. I understand first off why the why the NBA is doing this. The regular season, when it comes to NBA, MLB, and NHL, us um, all three of the top North American leagues. Even I would say the NFL is different, and I'll explain why in a second. But the NBA, the NHL, and the MLB, the regular season has become kind of dull in certain ways. It's meant less and less each and every year. The players now you're seeing players take games off in the NBA. NHL start to do it too, a certain load management idea. So the NBA is doing an inaugural in-season tournament that's going to tip off from November 3rd, and the championship will happen on December 9th. The actual finals will be from December 7th to 9th in Las Vegas at T-Mobile Arena. So maybe if you just want to have some time in Vegas, well, you're going to be playing. I don't know how much fun you'll have in Vegas, but basically the way it is there's going to be two stages, the group play and the knockout rounds. And so basically it's just another tournament to get, maybe those teams that feel like they want to have, players want to make a little more money. There's another trophy to go for. This is actually borrowing from the FA Cup idea in the Premier League. I mean, the FA Cup does do more than just the Premier League. Other teams do get involved, but I do think that this is an idea where it draws a lot more interest during a part of the season, like November, December. Now NBA fans might be a little more interested. We'll see how it all comes out. If the players really put in the effort, I do think it's something that could work well for the NBA. The NHL has been looking to do, obviously, the season. They've done tournaments before, obviously, when they did the World Cup of Hockey. That was the NHL kind of leading the charge with the IIHF. But with the Olympics being something that only happens every 4 years, and the NHL having not going to the Olympics the last little, haven't been there in a while, this could be a case where the NHL does something on their own to get the regular season to feel less dull, right? To kind of change things up a little bit. Now, they could do something where, from this time to this time, the regular season games. Now, I'm just spitballing ideas here, okay? Where they could do similar to the NBA, where they have the group stage and they have the knockout, and then the finals there. It's tough because you have to make concessions with the regular season schedule. Which games do you do? How do you make them worth the same without interrupting the regular season? There's different ways you can do this to make it work. And what I think is, with 82 games, I always find that in the last few years, it's been a drag to continue this to keep this facade of having 82 games and trying to make it all worth, make it all count. I mean, fantasy hockey helps in some ways to keep fans interested, but other than that, there's not really a way that fans, especially teams that fans are not sure that their team's going to be any good. I guess it's tough for them to, I mean, to keep them interested in all 82 games. I also do think that when you're looking at an in-season style tournament, what the NHL can do that the NBA can't do is sort of like a Champions League. If you don't know, the UEFA Champions League, the one in Europe, is probably one of the better soccer tournaments, probably the more popular soccer tournaments outside of like international competition with the Euro Cup, World Cup, Copa America, and all those, because it pits all the best teams in Europe against each other, and it's like figuring out which team is the best team in Europe, right? So you got the top four teams from the Spanish league, from the Italian league, from the Premier League, from the German league, and they bring them all into a pot and they all play against each other. The thing about hockey, instead of, let's say maybe, they can't get an international one going, why not try to get NHL teams to go up against KHL teams, to go up against the Swedish team league, go up against the German league, go up against the Swiss league. There are, and you also have the Finnish league. You have all these teams. Try to figure out a way to go up against each other. I think it would be a cool idea, even just to try it out. I don't know if that's something you can do in the summertime. I don't see how the NHL want to break up the regular season to do that, but I do think that there is an opportunity here for the NHL to consider a different style tournament just to keep things going. The logistics would take some work. How it would happen is something that's going to take some time to figure out. But look, we'll see how the NBA. The good thing here for the NHL, let's see how the NBA one works, and if that's something that actually draws interest, it can bring in some revenue. You can each have a city host a tournament each year. If this is something that eventually does take off, it could work. I do think it could work. Just to keep things interesting during the season. Now, I don't think that there should in hockey. It's tough like soccer because they can't do another trophy, but we'll see if they can get something like that off the ground. It'd be a little tough logistically, but I do think there's an interest there to maybe consider it. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that wants to consider something like this, but maybe like to see if anyone else has that same thought of trying to do something a little bit different. It does maybe like now the NBA looks like this is going to be a yearly thing. Maybe it's tough to do that in the NHL. I don't know, but we'll see if that's something they will want to consider. That'll do it for us here today on the show. I want to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can go find the Locked On Leafs podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. Make sure you go and subscribe on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you tell your friends to do so as well, and you'll be notified whenever we get an episode. I want to thank all those who have been listening every day. And if today was your first listen, thank you for listening. And I hope you do come back for the next episode. And then we'll be discussing more off-season stuff, just like usual. Maybe we'll take a look at some free agents still available. If there's anyone there that the Leafs should consider, just a little tease for the next episode. But until then, keep locked right here on Locked On Leafs.